The motel sat at the edge of a dying interstate, the kind that only saw truckers and the occasional lost traveler. Faded neon buzzed above the office door, casting a weak pink glow over the cracked walkway. Inside, the air stank of stale coffee and mildew, the kind that crawled into your lungs and clung. Marla signed the registry with a shaking hand, her knuckles still bruised from the fight earlier that night. The man behind the counter didn't ask questions. He handed her a key, room 9, corner room near the back. "Don't worry about the noise," he said, tapping a white stick of gum against his stubbled jaw. "It stops eventually." She didn't ask what he meant. Room 9 was colder than it should have been. The heater rattled like bones in a sack, and the curtains were drawn tight as if someone wanted to shut the world out entirely. Marla dropped her backpack on the sagging bed and locked the door behind her twice. She told herself this was just until morning, until she could get a signal and find someone, anyone, who would answer her calls. But her phone still had no service, just like the diner 10 miles back. She tried not to think about the man who'd followed her car for over half an hour, or the fact that he'd turned off down the same exit ramp just before she pulled into the motel lot. No one else had come in or out. At least, not yet. The old wallpaper was yellowing and lifted at the seams, revealing forgotten patterns beneath that twisted like veins. Every time she turned off the lights, the silence became oppressive, as if something waited just on the other side of it. At 1:12 a.m., the scratching began. At first it was light, like the sound of a raccoon pawing at a garbage bin. Then it became sharper, methodical. Not at the door, but at the connecting wall to room 8. A slow, calculated drag of nails on wood or something harder. She tried to ignore it. Maybe someone else was just restless. But the front desk clerk had said she was the only one staying in that wing tonight. She finally whispered, "Hello?" to the wall, feeling vaguely ridiculous. No answer. The noise stopped. A long minute passed, then 2. Her lungs felt too tight. Just as she began easing back into the covers, a soft knock echoed, not at the door, but inside the closet. 3 short taps, deliberate and polite. She sat upright, heart hammering. She hadn't even touched the closet since checking in. The doorknob jiggled once, then silence. She crouched beside the bed and reached underneath for the flashlight she always kept in her bag. When she flicked it on, the bulb stuttered and dimmed almost immediately, but not before illuminating something wet just beneath the closet door. The fluid glistened on the worn carpet, unmistakably red even in the dim light. But when she crept forward and flung the closet door open, there was nothing inside, no body, no blood, just her empty suitcase leaning crookedly, coat still pressed against the far wall. She backed up slowly, unsure if her mind was distorting things or if something in the room was playing with her sense of perception. That's when she noticed it wasn't her suitcase at all, a nearly identical shape, but older, worn with initials she couldn't recognize engraved on a rusted tag. CHL. The same letters she saw faintly scratched into the mirror above the sink earlier. Letters she had wiped off, assuming they were someone else's grime. By 3:30 a.m., Marla had stopped pretending to sleep. There were voices now, low, murmuring tones too muffled to discern but impossible to ignore. Her fingers shook as she rested next to the door, eyes fixed on the threshold as the whispering moved through the crack along the floor. It wasn't the words that terrified her. It was the cadence, the rhythm of a prayer spoken backward, looping endlessly as if waiting for her to join. When she screamed, the sound bounced back at her, weak and oddly delayed. As if the room absorbed noise differently, or didn't allow it to leave. Nearly an hour later, the lights cut out. Not all at once, but in a slow dim, as if fingers were pressing on the bulbs from the other side of the ceiling. The temperature dropped immediately, and even her breath misted in the air. That's when the reflection smiled. The mirror across the room still caught the faint light from the neon sign outside, just enough for her to see her own outline within it. But while her body remained frozen, the reflection shivered, head twitching slowly. It smiled, crooked mouth stretching wider and wider until the corners of its lips threatened to tear. Marla's hands clutched the blanket, refusing to look again. She shut her eyes tight. But behind them, she could still see it staring. At dawn, the light finally broke through the curtains with an almost accusatory brilliance. Marla crept outside, eyes raw, skin pale and drawn. She walked to the front office, ready to demand answers, or at least her sanity. But the lobby was empty. Dust coated the counters. The guest book, where she had signed her name just hours before, was blank. Only one name was listed on the entire page above hers. CHL, scrawled in red ink that hadn't dried. As she backed away, her hand brushed the bell rope on the desk. It fell apart in her fingers, disintegrating like old paper. Behind her, a door creaked open inside the office, and a familiar voice from room 9 whispered, "I thought you'd never check out."